There's limited tape on the Vikings Darren Hall, but what has stood out to you about him on film?
So did a good job last week coming in. That's always tough. Always think, first of all, Kurt's a great player and has been a great player for a long time. So have to come in at that particular moment, that was tough. I thought he did a really good job coming in, managing the game, closing those guys out. That was good. Obviously, not a lot of tape, like you said. Couple preseason games, that you see out there. He's got savvy in the pocket, good pocket awareness. He had a really good college career, good arm, good thrower, good decision maker. And so sure it'll be something, along the lines to use his strengths like we just talked about, but, rely on their run game. We'll see some play action, stuff that we saw last week. It'll be a similar type deal, expecting with a few wrinkles. Everybody does, everybody scouts and, hey, we see this on tape and we'll give a wrinkle here, a wrinkle there. And so those will be the differences. But solid player. I think he's a good player and looking forward to the matchup.
You guys have faced 3 rookie quarterbacks now in their first career starts this year. Provided Jared actually starts on Sunday.
Yeah.
How do you, is it literally just simple as what you described and trying to figure it out? Or is this maybe different and last week different than what week 1 was because there's more overall?
Yeah. It's always, I think it always needs to go back to, again, said this before, it has to go back to us. That's where, because if you start trying to chase things that aren't on the tape or, there's not a lot on some of the players that we're playing against. And so, look, you go back and you go, all right, what do we do well? Let's correct some of the things that we've maybe struggled on, focus on some of the things in practice. And so we don't have, they're going to try to attack us certain ways. And so we try to shore up those areas that we've had weaknesses on the tape. So that's where it starts. And then as the game goes, then you start going, okay, hey, this is how they're trying to attack us. And we like maybe this call to take away what they're doing and kind of go through it as the game keeps going. But it's always going to come down to, Mike, about us. It's always going to come down to our defense, how we think and how we prepare and play.
Have you ever been in this season where you faced, because it seems like it's such a rarity, not only just faced 3 rookies, but 3 rookie quarterbacks making their first start. Like that seems just so out there.
Haven't thought about that, but this is probably the first time. Yeah. It's unusual, but anyway.
The fact that you've worked with Contavious before, is that going to ease his transition? And then second part of the question is, how has he done in the couple of days that you've been working with him here?
Sure. So, yes, it will. A lot of similarities in terms of the terminology, our alignments and certain things that we do up front, Scott. It's good to have him back. Obviously, long history with Contavious. Excited about having him here. He's a good person, good player, and so he'll mesh. We got a good room, good group of guys. But yeah, the learning curve won't be as steep, as if haven't had any known the player before. And I think what he'll do is he'll come in and he'll provide. He's tough, he plays hard, he's got good effort. And those type of things. And so that combination of and then us being together in the past and, he's done certain things that, it'll be a little quicker for him to pick up.
Your coach, their rushing attack, well, they didn't have to because Kurt was throwing for so many yards.
Yeah.
But Akers and Madison,
Mm-hmm.
what are they considered in the run game? And, because you probably figure they might try to run a little bit more with the young guy back there.
Yeah, good backs, really good backs. And agree with you, what you said about maybe trying to run it a little bit more. One cut downhill hard runners, they have a lot of yards after contact, break a lot of tackles. We've got to do a really good job in their last couple games. They've got off on, they make the first guy miss, get into the second level, and they've got a second gear. They run with low pads, run behind their pads. Both those 2 guys do. I think they're good backs. They do a good job in protection, coming out of the backfield. And then, look, both of the guys, they're a threat if they do, an angle route, a screen, things like that out of the backfield that we got to be alert for when they're in the game.
Lions, with Montgomery down, they put Josh Reynolds back there.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess the returner for them is pretty good.
Yeah.
Run open field runner, Todd Chandler.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, could he run? Could he conceivably get some running opportunities?
Sure. I mean, we've seen some receivers in the backfield. Last week we saw Detroit did it, like you said. And so, look, that's on the tape. So we're preparing for a package, or whether it's third down, or putting a different guy back there than we're used to seeing. But we'll have a plan for that.
What if maybe, I don't want to say teams have been picking on AJ, but it seems like they've been going at AJ more this year. Maybe that just feels like it, and it's not actually true. Does it feel like that to you guys in some ways? Or?
No, look, there's always going to be a shot or two that how we play and we press and things like that. So we know that, but I don't think it's a hey, we're going to go after one guy. Jeff had they took a shot last week on Jeff on a third down and 4. And Jeff did a nice job and took a fade ball, one-on-one 50-50 ball. But don't think, Mike, it's like, hey, they're going at AJ. I think it's just been a couple of times the last couple of weeks that, because Washington tried to do the same thing, but it was only one time, where the other side's seeing 1 or 2 a game as well.
In terms of what they did on Sunday against Tennessee, that first one, what was your advantage? Like, how do you? What's the coaching point there when, even Steratore says on the broadcast that it's FBI?
Yeah. So obviously they didn't call it. And so what we need to do is clarify, what are they looking at? And then we can help coach our players, if they're going to be allowed to do certain things, or within how is the game going to be managed? Then we can go and we can coach them fundamentals, technique. Hey, let's do something a little bit different than what we did, and so it's tough, like it's tough situation, but look, we'll have a plan, and if that's how it's going to be, then we'll be able to adjust and adapt.
Is that more difficult because it seems like it might not be uniform week to week, and sometimes it will depend on crews?
But that's every week,
right.
And so that every week presents just a different challenge, and sometimes it's a little tighter, and sometimes it's a little looser, and so we've just got to adjust to that. And that was early in the game, so it was really, we were playing a couple of 3 and outs, and the guys were playing fast, making tackles, and limiting in the run game, and they got to play. But it was just, at that particular moment, it really wasn't anything else to base, how they were calling it in the game. And so then after that, our guys adapted and came back, and we kind of knew how they're going to be a little bit looser this game and how they're calling things. So that's always something that, all right, hey, they're a little tighter this week, or hey, they're calling a little closer. So we just got to be alert for that.
Is that something you can scout? Because you guys as NFL coaches seem like you scout and look at everything.
Yeah.
Is that something that you can actually scout, or does that end up sometimes being, hey, they've been calling it this way all year, and then they do it completely different on a Sunday? I'm just trying to understand where how much you can prep that pregame versus you just roll with the fly.
Yeah, your officials report, kind of what they're calling, what they're, what they're looking at, what their history is, but that can change, and so yes, you have an idea of what the crew's calling, but sometimes it doesn't go how they have been calling it, and so it's just kind of one of those things that you got to adjust and adapt through the game.
We haven't spoken to you since the news that Brady is going to be out for the year. I know it's always a next man up thing, but to lose someone, a presence and a talent like that is obviously impactful.
It is. Hate it for him. He is he's a great person. He cares so much about this team. Great leader. He's got the whole package, and he's done it at such a high level for so long. And his locker room presence, what he means to our defense, our team, being a captain, all of those things. But for him, he's put so much work and effort and has played at such a high level. And really this year is playing at such a high level. You just hate to see that it was such a fluke injury that, when you really watch the tape and how it happened, he and I watched the tape together. And it was like, wow, that haven't seen that before. So you hate it for him, you feel for him. We'll be there, every step of the way, and just talking with him, his mind is right about, all right, hey, I'm going to get this taken care of. I'm going to come back. I'm going to attack the rehab process, and I'm going to come back better than before. And so you love that response and how his mind is right now. And so he's definitely thinking the right way. And when he'll come back and he'll be around us for the rest of the season, and that will be a huge part of the rest of the year for this team and our D-line, our defense really, being around everybody. But he'll be back shortly, and we'll get him back, and you'll see, hopefully and he will not hopefully, he will come back, and he'll be better than he was when he left this year.
I'm not asking who's going to play where in his place or
Sure.
anything, but do you have to recalibrate the lines and the rotations and some of these things now? Because not only is Grady gone, but London is out of the mix as
Sure.
well. You got to retool things a bit.
Yeah, well, one of the things, and you guys have every week feels like coming in talking about the D-line rotation, and that we've played a lot of guys. So we've had a lot of guys play throughout the season. Go back to the beginning of the season. You had Tim, you had Albert, London, Grady. You had all these guys, David. We can, there's so many players that have played for us inside that, it'll be, yes, and you said next man up. But the nice thing about that is it's some guys who have played this year. So it's not like a brand new player we're bringing in here. And Katavius played, he's been playing in Philly. So it's not like, hey, new guys coming in and now we got to start fresh all over. These guys have had some experience. And so, they'll have some more playing time. That's pretty much where it comes down to. Yep, thank you.
Yeah. Just looking at Hall's BYU stats, looks like multi-talented. He can throw the ball, get big yards, and can run a little bit. I don't think he runs a lot, but can do it. How do you get ready for that that type of running back, quarterback?
No, but that's what we're seeing every week. Every week, these guys are moving around and extending plays, and we've played a lot of guys who've, from the first game of the season all the way up until last week, extending plays and moving in the pocket, and it's kind of where the NFL has gone to. Is the true pocket passer is kind of gone. We've got guys that can extend plays, move up in the pocket, good scramblers. This guy's got all that too. Like when you go back, you look at his college tape, he can get out B-gap areas and extend plays, scramble for a first down. Those are the type of keep drives going. And so really it's going to be the plan very similar to just keeping them in that we've done before. Now you'll see, as we do every week on defense, we mix it up on third down. So we're constantly changing our rotations and the players in the game. So we always have a wrinkle, one or two things, but try to make it as simple for our guys as possible and just allow them to play fast so we don't allow him to extend and keep him in the pocket in our rush and change our looks up in the back end to take them off the first couple of reads.
And the deep shots that they were able to hit last week, y'all have to address that.
Yeah, that's going to be – it's even at, we give up a run a 7 or 8. It's addressed the next week, and we want to come back and practice those things. A lot of the self-scout and, just fundamentals, technique, what are we calling? All of those things. Every single week is always a self-scout. What did we do? What can we do better? Those type of things, and just stay positive with our guys. Look, a couple of things happen. We play in the National Football League. Every once in a while, stuff like that happens. We don't want it to happen. We're not coaching it to happen, but we're staying positive with our guys. Don't expect it to happen again, and taking the next step forward this week. Guys have had great energy. Practice was excellent yesterday. Meetings were really good, and guys are excited to get out on the field and play on Sunday.
Thank you, guys.
Appreciate you guys. Thank you.
I'll get started if that's okay, D-Led. Tough loss last week, for our players. And when you talk about field position, the biggest thing that pops up is that second quarter for us on special teams. And the biggest thing that we look at as a unit is field position and returner decision making. It starts with me. We have to do a better job of making the right decisions to put our offense and our team in the best field position possible, especially when you're playing games that lead to one possession games in the NFL, which is a lot of games. So when it comes to us making great decisions, making sure that understanding, hey, if they're trying to flip the field as a punt unit, that we got to make sure that we have urgency to the football, get underneath it. If it's a ball that's playable, then we do it. We have our strict yard lines where we play footballs, and if they haven't hit a good punt, they hit a good punt, and then we got to live the next down. So whether you're talking about kickoff return or punt return, that's something that we take a lot of pride in as a special teams unit, making sure that, one, we make sure we have the ball for our offense on the next play, D-led, but also, two, make sure that we're making the right decisions. As a returner, you have a quarterback mindset when you're back there, and it's not an easy position to play, but we trust those guys back there to make the right decisions week in and week out, play in and play out. And it's different in offense and defense where you have a second, third down, possibly a fourth down. We have a one play down, and we got to make the best decisions possible for our team. I thought in the second half we made better decisions as a return unit when it came to the field position. And then I thought our coverage units did a better job, and I give a lot of credit to those guys flipping the field when it comes to coverage. And then also, too, Bradley, not feeling well going into the game and being able to go out there and put his best foot forward.
So, in that vein, was Mike just making poor decisions then?
He was not making the best decisions when it comes to that, and that's for any returner that's back there. We have a strict yard line that we want to stand at, and if that ball goes over our head, and let's say the ball hits on a 2 and then it bounces, lands on a 3, you come to the sideline, good punt by them. But then when we go back and catch the ball, now it's a good punt and a bad decision. So we don't want to do that, and then if we ever have the ball, we want to get north-south with it. So those are things that we continue to emphasize week in and way out. Situational awareness, whether the ball's at the minus 35-yard line, they punt it all the way to the 2, or if that ball's at the plus 45-yard line and they punt it to the 2. We got to make great decisions when it comes to being a returner.
What's that discussion like on the sideline when, with Mike after a play like that?
Nope.
Wait and handle it after the game in the meetings, or?
No, we address every play after the play. Those are conversations that we have between myself and the player, but those are always addressed, whether it's during the game, whether he made a great decision or if he didn't make a great decision. The objective is our players are not trying to make bad decisions, but they just have to be disciplined and have to have urgency to the football so they can make the right decision. But those things are always addressed, whether it's good or bad or if it's a plus minus. It's in between. We address everything during the game. We get repping a lot of returners. So Mike is one of our returners. As we work through the week, and we work through our returns, and we work through our roster and who's going to be up and who's going to be down, he is one of our returners.
How's Scotty Miller figuring? He's been back there twice, and then the offers started out the season.
Yeah. Well, we have, again, those guys have been working at it. As you watch practice, all three guys are back there working our returns, working whether Bradley's punting the ball as our punt team versus our scout rush team, or if we're working punt return, all three of those guys are back there working, getting their reps in, making sure they're working on their catch mechanics, situational awareness. On Fridays, working certain situations when it comes to punt and punt return, and they continue to get better and improve. All three guys are improving in that aspect.
How's Scotty been when he's been in the game?
I mean, he's making better decisions. He's showing that he has urgency to the football. And just making sure he's making the right decision when it comes to when to catch it and when not to catch it. And he's had limited reps.
What about I went back on
Go ahead, sure.
Yeah, I just went back. I mean, you Davey was averaging 16 yards, Mike's averaging 6. You losing the whole first down.
Yeah.
With the losing your return back there. Did you try to at least get to 10, or how do you try to add some pop to the return game back there?
Well, our goal is, D-led, is always to gain a first down when it comes to return units. Yes, Avery did a good job. There was a point where he was averaging 2 first downs a return last year. There's a lot of different variables. It depends on the call that we're running, depends on the down and distance. It depends on the type of gunners we're going against, but we want to get that number up. Our goal is to at least average a first down in the return game. because we're getting first downs that correlates to field position and points for our offense.
What about on that? It was on the kick where it wasn't intended for him, and he goes down there. There's that, I don't know how new the rule is, but where you can kneel it and fair catch it even if you're in the field of play, right?
Yeah.
Is that well, I guess broader question, how would you evaluate that play, and what would you like to have seen him done differently, if anything?
Yes, Scott. So the rule is if you waive fair catch, and if you waive fair catch inside the 25-yard line, you could get the ball at the 25-yard line. So that's a situation where we have to use that rule to our advantage, that new rule, and it was implemented this season. We have to use that to our advantage. That's a situation that we do want a fair catch. If they give us a kick that is not the right pitch, you would say, if it's not the right pitch that we're looking to return, we want a fair catch that. And then that goes back to, Scott, us being detailed and being disciplined with our decision-making and our alignment. Because if we do those things, then now you don't find yourself in a stressful position as a return team. So now you can make the right decision, have a clear mind to make that right decision. But that's another one of those plays, and those 3 plays happen in the second quarter to where we're not putting our offense in the best field position when it comes to the return game.
Maybe this is more of a public perception, but do you think that losing Avery this year, when you guys did, was maybe underrated or not as paid attention to as it should have been?
I really don't think about what the outside thinks, but in the building, anytime you lose a player, it's a big loss, I believe. That's part of the 90-man roster, and then when you trickle it down to the 53-man roster, because everybody that Terry and Art bring in here, and our personnel staff they bring in here, we have a plan and a vision for those guys. Avery was here for 2 seasons, going into his 3rd season. He was a critical part to our special teams unit. Yeah, so in the building, anytime you lose a player to the season-ending injury, whether it's Grady, Avery, whoever that person is, it is a big loss. But it's an opportunity for somebody else to step up. So those are things that we push for and we're looking for, and it's a great opportunity for the next man up to go in there and make the right decisions, get vertical with the football and be the first play for our offense.
You have some of the issues that you have. Do you alter your practice routine, or I hate to say point of emphasis, but it's not like you guys don't work on that stuff anyway, but how do you kind of maybe re-emphasize it as you lead up to the Vikings game, or is anything different at all?
Every week we always evaluate, whether win, lose, or draw. We're always evaluating how we're handling stuff in the game. It's a 1 play down, so you look at special teams, we had 35 plays, and then you look at some of those plays, if you have 4 minuses in 35 plays, yes, that's not a big number, but those 4 minuses can lead to big results in the game. So when we talk about teaching, every week we're looking at trying to teach things a different way, whether we're learning from things around the league or things that happen to us. And it's my job as a coach to make sure we find different ways, different modalities, different teaching tools to try to push and emphasize the same situations or the same techniques. We only get better reps, so continue to work with those guys with finding different ways, different tools, different film studies to get better at what we want to do on the field. We always push small menu, big understanding, and we take pride in having a big understanding. But when you get into games, you got to translate what you do at practice into the game, and that's our challenge for this week, so we can help our offense and defense out.
You had the job to begin with, and it seems like his job is so big on defense now. Has that changed it in terms of what you guys are doing, because he plays so much on defense, so that it's a tired thing, maybe it's too many reps where he could be a returner at this point? Yeah, because you guys went away from that so quick. Was it 1/2 in the first game?
It's collective. There's a lot of different variables when it comes to in-game. My job as a coach, where I'm coaching special teams, we do have starters on offense and defense that do play on special teams, but I do have to pay attention to if a guy is hurt or if a guy is tired or if a guy needs a play. But I look at it like this, Mike. And I always challenge our defensive players to this, the hardest transitions from defense to punt return. If the offense we're going against a team like, let's say, the Vikings this week, and we got some starters that play on special teams on punt return that play on defense. And we do a great job. Coach Nielsen, the staff, and the players do a great job. They get in the 4th down. We can't control if they're going to go for it or not, Mike. You know what I mean? So Now they put their punt team out there. It's a 4th down play. It's got to have a situation. So our guys understand the challenge when it comes to that, whether I'm staying out there on 4th down, the offense is out there, or they're going to give us the football. Now you get to be an offensive player. So when we talk about fatigue, being tired, you can't control if they're going to be on offense. So give it your all on that play. And guys understand that. So, but when it comes back to your question about D, it's a lot of different variables. It goes back to Mike Hughes, his return ability, D Alford's return ability. Yes, he does have a little bit of volume. He has more volume on defense than prior, but it's an opportunity to help our team flip the field. So that's how we look at it.
I guess what I'm getting at is, say the defense is on the field again for like 7 plays, right?
Mm-hmm.
And because they're playing a lot of nickel, D's on the field for all 7. Is it does it get, like you said, does it become a rep factor of like having a guy who just played 7 plays and maybe playing 50 plays a game versus a guy who's playing like 8 on defense in terms of freshness? Like, is that part of this when you're looking at D versus other guys? Or?
Well, that equation's always real, but we're going to try to put the best 11 players out there when it comes to that 1 down mentality. So whether it's Mike, whether it's Scotty, whether it's D, we're going to put the best 11 guys out there, whether it's Trey, AJ, Zoe, Zach, Calais, Nate, who plays on special teams, wherever those best Richie, wherever those best 11 guys, we're going to formulate the plan to put the best 11 guys out there so we could win that down.
You mentioned those 3 guys. Are there other guys at this point that you're looking at in terms of punt return besides those 3?
Right now, those are the 3 that catches punts for us, and we have, obviously, Bijan is always working back there too. So those are the guys that we're continue to work with, continue to improve, get better with their basic fundamentals, awareness, and situational urgency when it comes to making the right decisions for our return unit.
Like you said, right now, are there other guys that you're kicking around maybe putting there?
As of right now, those are our guys back there returning for us.
Yeah, Coach, got a stat on Ty Chandler's 3rd quarter kickoff. Got notified, but still 100. They said he ran 115.2 yards. The longest return of the season.
Well, they on the video, on our video XOs, they have him down for 103, but he stepped out of bounds. I don't know if they ruled or not. They got called back for holding penalty. Right. But that return is real. His return ability is real. He could get north-south with the football. He's done a great job as a core player for them, whether you're talking about punt, kickoff return. He's doing a great job getting vertical, and that was a big return. Even though I did get notified, get called back because of holding penalty, that did create a spark and some juice, and he's been pretty consistent when it comes to his break tackle ability, his vision, and getting vertical with the football.
He's a bigger returner.
Yeah, I mean, whether you had him or 26 back there, Kenne, who was out, I think he had a sickness last week. They're bigger returners that get vertical with it, and they're looking to cut back and have good vision. Chandler did a great job of getting back out to the outside and getting down the sideline. It was a really great job by him. So we have our hands full when it comes to keeping leverage on the football, being physical at the point of attack, and then making sure we put a body on him to get him down because he will break tackles.
All right.
Hey, I was up at 4:30 this morning fixing my depth chart there.
I used to do that. So you should have called me. That'd be good.
Yeah, can we discuss the major change on the offensive side of the depth chart there?
Which is what?
The quarterback
Oh, I gotcha.
for this week, supposedly.
Yep.
And the variables that went.
That's right.
into-
Yeah, I know you guys obviously talked to Coach yesterday, and so for us, right, for this week, Taylor goes in. Taylor did a good job coming into the game last week in the second half. Again, a lot of credit goes to not just him, but the guys around him. That's not the easiest thing, just because when you're the backup quarterback in the NFL, you don't get a ton of live reps with the offense. You get more scout team. And, again, Taylor was brought here for a reason because of his experience and the way he can handle certain situations. He showed that the second half of the Tennessee game. And then now going into this week, for this week versus Minnesota, for a chance for him to get a whole week of work with all the different personnels that we have and the different guys that we can bring out there.
Why did you feel like you needed to make this
Well, for us, right, there's, again, as Coach talked about, a lot of variables go into it, a lot of different things that we discussed internally that are kept within the building. And for this week, it's for us, Taylor giving us going out there and on this term basis and trying to go out and win a football game.
Is this something that you think should be permanent?
Again, we're into the short term right now. It's in Minnesota. It's a great challenge. Know a lot of those guys on staff, work with a lot of those guys. Brian Flores does a great job schematically. And so for us, it's 1 week, look at it, let's go out there and execute at a high level.
How does the dynamic of the quarterback room change at all with the change?
No, I'm fortunate. I've been in a lot of quarterback rooms. I'm not going to rank the quarterback rooms I've been in, but I will say this about this one. It is very, the guys within that room understand what it's like to be in a very healthy quarterback room. What I mean by that is they push each other mentally and physically, right, to learn the game plan, to go out there and execute, but also like in terms of helping each other, regardless of who has the ball or who doesn't. It's a very healthy room in terms of the competition, but also you can tell there's a friendship that goes outside of the room, which is a key component, in my opinion, to having one of those healthy rooms. There's a human factor to it, and those guys have done a great job regardless of who gets the potential first snap or not.
Does the offense change in the switch at all?
Schematic question there, D-Led, huh? You know where I'm going to go with that. Look, for us, it's about, like I've said for a number of years up here, it's going to take all 11 guys out there to go out there, execute a game plan, regardless of if we're in Wildcat, if Taylor's out there, or another quarterback's out there. And for us, execution comes down to fundamentals, understanding your assignment, focusing on the details, and for the coaches to give the players an advantage before the snap. And so we feel we can do that. We have a chance to move the ball, and then we need to score points when we're down there, or any chance to score points, we need to do that, and regardless of who's playing quarterback or not playing quarterback.
What answer to that is a yes or no?
Come on, D-Led. Come on, D-Led. Nothing's going to change.
All right. Okay. There we go. That's a no.
Nothing's going to change in terms of how I'm going to answer the question, D-Led.
Why have there been maybe so many pass protection issues?
Yeah, I wouldn't. Again, I think you can look at raw numbers of anything, right? I think when you look at, again, you can bring up 31 different offensive coordinators up here. I'm sure you get a different answer from each of us, just like you talk about quarterback, get a different quarterback answer. In the pass game, there's 11 guys, right? Regardless if you're running the ball or passing the ball. In order to get the ball out on time, to have the right reads, to make sure that you're not letting potential pressure issues get to you or anything like that. Like there's timing, there's trust, right? And making sure everybody's on the same page. And I'm not saying there's times where that's not the case. I'm saying that all has to work together. And when the ball comes out on time, or, right, when there's a hot answer or something like that, those need to be executed at a high level. If there's a design issue, right, where we didn't give a player potentially an answer to an issue, right, we go back and self-evaluate as coaches. And so I think when you look at all of it, right, our job, right, together with the players is giving those guys solutions and answers. So if there's an issue within, for instance, a series or a half in which there might be a blocking issue of how we're setting the protections, right, we have to make sure we do a good enough job as a staff first, right, giving players answers how to adjust. Then we talk about if it's not that, then okay, what is the issue on each of those plays? When we go back as coaches, as you guys can imagine, it's a self-evaluation right after that last ball snapped, and we get in that locker room, and then we're either flying home or driving home, and we're thinking about each of those plays, and do we give our players the best chance? Could we have coached something better? Could we have helped our players? And I think when you go through that process, it's a healthy process for us. And then you have answers for the players when they come back in, or, right, you have them talk through what they potentially thought was an issue. And so for us, that's all part of the process, regardless if it's pass protection, a run blocking scheme, or a pass design scheme. We're always self-evaluating, going through how can we help our players play at the highest level possible.
You obviously need to change a quarterback, but are there other changes that, I mean, is this maybe too much blame on one guy for some of the offensive issues? Because
sure.
You look at some of the offensive line situations, Kurt Warner for Cincinnati today, and you literally see guys just running by right through the middle and the other guys blocking air. Like, I'm just wondering, are there other changes that maybe should be made or could be made that's not just the quarterback in that situation?
Yeah, for me, for that, it's a valid question. You can ask that question to a number of different teams and different situations. For me, right, when you think about each play, right, what I think is hard to evaluate at times from the outside looking in is what was being told or asked that player, right? That's always the hard part. There's plenty of smart people out there who've been around this game a long time, either played or coached at a high level, that evaluate tape and have their own evaluations from it. But for us, right, it's the quarterback position comes down, the old adage, right, D-Led? You've been covering this league a long time. Too much credit, too much blame, right? But that's what you sign up for. I was told this one time by an NFL Hall of Fame quarterback that everybody would know in this room, and everybody in the world probably would know. And he told me one thing, and I think it makes a lot of sense. When you sign up to play NFL quarterback, you sign up for all of it, the good and the bad. And sometimes, right, those situations happen where some things are out of control, some things are within your control. But in terms of blame games and stuff like that, that's not what we're looking to do. We're looking to find solutions, help players out. And again, a lot of those discussions are held internally for that.
How has Des been over the course of the last couple of days since it was announced that it was going to start?
Look, Des is, you guys have spent a lot of time with him. Des handles things the way that he needs to handle them. But again, he's been a great teammate. You asked about the quarterback room. They're helping each other. He's out there in practice. He's trying to grow, right? Never stop growing and trying to learn. And again, all part of the process of, again, you can look at any situation however you want. If you look at it as a growth opportunity, right, then usually something good comes from it. And again, that's not going to speak for Des, but my observation of how he's handling things, right, exactly how we thought. He's a great teammate, goes out there, and he's got to be ready to play, just like anybody else who gets a helmet on Sunday. You never know when your situation can change, and every player should, on our roster on offense, should prepare as if they're the starter.
How does he get better this week? As you say, growing, watching it from the sideline.
Yeah, again, you may not get every physical rep. You may observe something, and maybe not even from the quarterback spot. You may observe something from how a route's being run, right, where now you're internalizing, hey, I like the way that's, or hey, let's talk about that, because now your perspective is a little bit different. Also, how you attack the game plan, right, because now you're not getting maybe all those physical reps, so now you have to get on the mental side of it. And so you may be attacking the game plan, playing the game differently in your mind, right, because you're not getting those physical reps, or you're walking through it differently, or you're seeing it differently. Again, I think it's an awesome opportunity to try to find your way to grow when you're not going the typical route of getting every rep. And if handled the right way, I think it's an awesome process.
Why do you think he can handle it the right way?
Well, again, I mean, it's, the person, okay? Again, every situation's different. Comes in, just observing through his work so far, coming in, giving you everything he's got, great attitude, looking to grow from the opportunity, takes the right approach. And again, that's all part of the process.
Part of this too, because I've seen it in other positions, like Darius Slater comes to mind for me. Like he started a few games, then he got benched, sat, watched, and then ended up back in a Pro Bowler.
Sure.
Since I was a rookie. Is part of it this decision that now he has some experience and he can maybe see it differently than maybe he did a year ago?
Right.
Is that part of the calculus of why you guys are doing this?
Yeah, I think, again, Mike, you bring up great points. I think for us, there's a lot of things that went into it, and they're all kept internally. But, yeah, there's different stories of different guys. You guys brought up Kurt Warner. I mean, there's different paths to success in the National Football League at the quarterback spot. But, yeah, a lot of those things were just internal conversations, and we're just going to keep it there with that.
I mean, you do realize that by keeping it all internally, you're also setting him up to a lot of external criticism.
In what way?
Well, I don't know if you're on social media or not, but
No,
I'm just saying,
I'm not.
I mean, there's a lot of questions of like, well,
Sure.
What is this? And the only explanation has been, well, there's a lot of variables. So I think that there's a lot of questions of like,
Sure.
what does that mean? Like,
But I understand you
mean,
have to ask them, right? No, and this is a full transparency. I understand you guys have a job to do and you have questions to ask. There's no doubt about it. And it's not a great headline if you say there's a lot of variables and they're internal, right? I'm not naive to this whole thing. I mean, I have been around the NFL a little bit. And I get that 100%. But there are things that we feel, right, from a conversation standpoint, and Coach Smith obviously speaks for himself, and he was up here and said the exact same things. Like, those to me, right, when he says those things, there's nothing for me to add. Those are internal, and that's where we're at with it.
Well, Coach, yeah, because in the old days, they used to just come in and tell you, like Bobby Petrino came in the room and said, hey,
Did
we
you know?
coaching.
So Bobby recruited me, right? He recruited me to Louisville, right? Came in the. Can I get a quick Bobby story real fast? Not the most, right? I get the right. So, you guys obviously know my background, right? My parents are from Italy, immigrants, come over, right? No English spoken in the house, okay, as a kid. So, they get the job at Louisville. That's their first year. They haven't coached here yet. They came from out west, right? Utah State, okay? So, again, I'm a Cleveland kid. There isn't a bunch of cowboy boots in Cleveland, right, Dylan? Right? So Bobby comes in, right, with John L. Smith, and they have these cowboy boots on, and they're rocking these tight jeans. And I just saw my mom and dad, like, we have pasta on the table, we got lasagna, we got meatballs, so, like, it was a straight. What we did not have, right, is, we weren't thinking that it was going to turn into, a little bit of that, but, yeah. But I look, I hear you on all that, but not to diverge, but that was my Bobby story for
That's
him.
a good one. It might make the reporter's notebook this week. But no, we were just coming from a place for the last time there was a quarterback change here. Bobby Petrino walked back in the room and told us that Joey Harrington was being benched for Brian Leftwich.
So that was Joey, Byron, Chris Redmond, right?
Yes.
We're here? Yeah.
Chris ended up with it. And,
At the end.
And then we go to the locker room, but he hadn't told Joey yet.
Oh, is that right? Did you guys interview Joey after that?
Yeah.
I've known Joey a long time.
We
Yeah.
informed him that
I know. So Byron was my draft class. Known Joey for a long time. Chris Redmond's like a brother. I mean, that whole thing. I can hear you.
Going from that to variables. So I can't.
So that's why you're like. That's why your depth chart's all jacked up.
Right.
Because if you have Coach Petrino, like, your depth chart would be done when you texted him. I got it. I get it. Now I see it.
Scotty Miller question.
All right, here we go. Yep.
Catches in the last 4 games. Looked like, caught the deep ball at Tampa. Looked like, the niche role that he probably envisioned is there now. And I'll ask Marquice about the punt return part.
I think Scotty, I wouldn't, again, there's different ways that players are used in general, but look, Scotty is a pro. Like, that receiver room, you got a really good mix. If I'm not mistaken, you got 3 guys in that room with a Super Bowl ring. And you get that, and you get guys who played at high-level games. And, again, it's not just Scotty, but the question was about Scotty. Like, those guys go out there, they understand the game plan, and they go out and practice. That's what you love about that group, man. Watch them finish at practice. Do a great job. This is like the rest of our guys, but, like, those guys understand how to be professionals, the standards in which they set. And, again, I think they understand what's asked of them, and they try to do that at the highest level.
Schematically, you guys having a good quarterback. I know that.
Yeah,
I saw that.
I just went right to D-Led on that. Yeah.
I guess what I'm asking is, are there things that maybe you guys feel like you need to tweak schematically to maybe offer quicker reads, quicker options, quicker scenarios if maybe some of those pass pro issues are there, or whether it was Desmond maybe not seeing things, whatever was going on.
Sure.
Is that maybe something that when you guys have done your review, you're like, well, maybe that has been.
Yeah, you're going through a constant evaluation of all that, right? You're going through a constant evaluation of design-wise, did it work against what we were seeing, right? What were we anticipating? Did we get the quarterback answers? Did we get the offensive line answers? Again, that's part of the coaching as we go through it, right? We're trying to help our players pre-snap and then give them advantage post-snap when the ball snapped. But yeah, you go through all those evaluations. But from a schematic standpoint, like, obviously, I'm not going to get into all that, but you're constantly evaluating what you're doing, always, right? And you want to give players answers. And then as you give them answers, right, you want to go out there and continue to practice them, execute it, right, and give those guys the fundamentals needed to practice those to go out to execute at a high level. And that's what we're always constantly trying to do.
Anything else? All right.
All right.